Hello everybody and a very warm welcome to another special episode of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby in partnership with Amazon Prime Video. My God, that was a hell of a weekend. We're going to debrief, we're going to put our analyst hats on, and we're going to dissect the good, the bad and everything in between the rugby from this past weekend. And at the end of the show, we hope to leave you with a 1 to 15, which you can fire into, critique, disagree with. One or two of you may even go so far as to agree with the esteemed thoughts of two men who played over 150 times for their country. Former England captain Mike Tyndall and not former England captain James Haskell. Where would you like? I love the fact you're actually doing your research as we roll on the record on this.
I haven't seen every single game, so I was just watching the end of the Wales game.
Quite dramatic. Can we just start with an overview? God, rugby's good at the moment.
Yeah, God, Northern Hemisphere rugby is good at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can distill it down to that as well.
Yeah.
Why? I suppose why, relative to 12 months ago, we were all sitting here with do you remember off the back of that sort of that Northern Hemisphere knockabout, where basically it was a very good reason to fall asleep on the sofa on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, but remember,
Saturday was epic.
There was no crowds, there was no atmosphere. We all pretty much ascertained very quickly that sport without an audience was awful. And I think everyone's kind of had that pent-up aggression. I think all the atmospheres around the country have been brilliant. I would say let's not get carried away. I think Northern Hemisphere rugby is in a great place, but it's always very transitory. Do you remember after 2015, we were almost going to have to disband Northern Hemisphere rugby because apparently we were all awful and light years, and the Southern Hemisphere was light years ahead. Now we're playing some very attractive rugby, and I think it's very exciting. I'm very buoyed by the whole affair.
Yeah, and I actually looked. One of the Smutbees sent me a little form of stats and meters made, and of all the rankings of the Northern Hemisphere teams, and of all the teams, and obviously South Africa is still at number one, but actually, why we sort of disagree with the way that they play, they probably sit at the bottom of all the attacking stats, but not at the defensive ones. They sit at the top, but ultimately, they've played 8 games this season. They've lost, I think they've won 5, lost 3, or maybe...
Yeah, they lost to the All Blacks, the Lions and England.
So, I think it shows that there is... Everyone can beat everyone on any given day, and even though England probably was slightly lucky on the weekend, but they deserved it for the first half performance and the tries they scored, I think. So.
Yeah. Just for the record, in case you hadn't heard, Italy got past Uruguay, 17-10. Scotland got past Japan, 29-20. England beat South Africa, as you know. Wales beat Australia by a point. France, absolutely mesmeric against the All Blacks at times. Ireland hammered Argentina, and the Red Roses put 89 points on the USA, including 15 tries, and that equals the record for an England team of 18 consecutive victories. So well done to Simon Middleton and his team. I think our team of the week is going to be comprised, unless I'm going out rogue here, mainly from England, Wales, France and Ireland, I think all things considered. But I just want, which of those do you think was game of the weekend? Because actually, if you look at the big three on Saturday, England beat South Africa with a last-minute penalty, Wales beat Australia with a last-minute penalty, and France kicked a last-minute penalty to seal the deal against the All Blacks. And all three of them were just... Actually, England game and the France game were sensational. The Wales game was a thriller because it was two teams.
Because of a red card and some yellow cards. Wales likes winning games with red cards, don't they?
That's it. Get the knife in. Which was the best?
Obviously, watching the England live, you get carried away with it. But why I'm probably not as positive about the England game was how the second half really, they dropped off. They were sensational in that first half. And then everything you don't want to do against South Africa started creeping in, penalties, just letting them back into it, letting the bomb squad sort of get that. You start off at that game and our front row stood up, got the first 2 penalties at the first scrums. You're like, hey, okay, here we go. And then it finished with an unbelievable penalty, and then Marcus Smith. I know it was an easy kick, but still, you've got to knock those over.
2.5 minute wait as well.
Yeah.
With jelly legs.
Yeah. And so I do think that watching the France game was a thriller all the way through, and the level of physicality of the French as well in terms of every area. We talk about the positives of what South Africa bring, this swarming defence that puts you under pressure with its physicality. That was all there for France as well. And then the sublimeness of Ntamack. Not sublime by Dupont this week in terms of the way that we expect him to play, but how nuggety he was this week, literally ripping balls off people, taking on forwards, throwing them around, never goes backwards. And when he does go backwards, he still keeps the ball, and it's like superhuman strength. You've got the back row, the French back row was absolutely top class. Well, actually, their front row was, and then the front row that came on was as well. So, I'd give that game was the game of the weekend.
Hard to disagree.
I mean, I think because of England in that state of flux, were very exciting purely because we finished the Six Nations. Everyone said fire ready. Everyone said we need to bin everybody. He came out and said, "Oh, listen, we're in a team in transition. I've stuck with some players. Wanted to see if they could crack on." And then they changed it up, put a lot of the fans' kind of ideal players in, your Marcus Smiths, your Sam Simmons, your Alex Dombrandts, and then obviously a crop of other players. And I thought it was great to get a victory against Africa. Yes, it wasn't pretty. I think Mike's right with the indiscipline. And actually, South Africa probably had a couple of chances to, if they'd got those kicks, would have made the scoreline very different. But what a way to win. It also means it's their first kind of experience against Africa, and they've got no baggage now. A lot of them guys didn't play. But for me, France, another team that was kind of in transition, which we talked about in the Six Nations, how good was it to have them back? Sean Edwards, I know we talk about Galtier and the rest of his team, but what he's done with that, he's had added a real edge. Everyone says against South Africa, for example, very good at what they do, not particularly interesting, very boring, very staid. Wouldn't it be great if someone like Villiers Leroux got his ball in hand and actually attacked? France had that unbelievable aggression, but matched it with some incredible flair.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect combination. That is, unfortunately, or fortunately, what modern international rugby is about. Unbelievable physicality, directness, beat the crap out of people, but then have that kind of flair. And if you can maintain that, then they've got the perfect recipe. It's not always easy to do because the opposition do impact on it, but I thought they were utterly brilliant. And what a way. Nobody beats the All Blacks 40 points to something. Nobody does.
Nobody puts baby in the corner,
No.
apparently. Right, team of the week. Let's get into it. 3, 2, 1. Let's start 1, 2, 3. Loosehead. I'm going to throw names out there and you can pick. Andrew Porter.
I went with Porter.
Brilliant for Ireland.
Yeah.
Bevan Rodd, proper coming of age. Cyril Bai would be the 3 headliners. I'm not sure Wales scrum had its happiest of days.
I went with Porter. I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought, he was fantastic against the All Blacks and great again this week.
Mega versatility.
Yeah, I threw down the same names as you. I thought Bevan was just for, as you said, his question. There was question marks, and obviously get that first penalty, the first 2 penalties, and he did literally get sat down in the best way that I've ever seen anyone ball carrying in get sat down. He literally. It was like a pinball bouncing
when you bounce off the wall of a bouncy castle. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
you wouldn't have gone back further than what he did.
Yeah.
But no, I think Porter. So I think we'll settle there.
Coulda, shoulda, would have been a line this summer as well.
It would have been. But you also think about Bevan Rodd. Everybody said, "Oh, look, he's not picked Mako, not picked those guys, picked different front row combinations, not given an opportunity." I'd never heard of Bevan Rodd before I came into this thing.
Yeah.
What a way! 2 games, 2
been a
great
Northern
performances.
Revolution actually in that squad as well. Isn't it?
No, that's always good.
Always a hotbed, but never necessarily represented in the right way. Okay, Porter, well done to you, sir. Hooker, Malvaka.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we need to go any further? I was going to go Jamie Blamara with another sort of coming of age performance, and Ryan Elias was really busy for Wales, but Malvaka, Peter Malvaka.
He's got a better try scoring record than me.
Yeah,
which is quite disappointing.
He's scored more tries than me
in 9 games.
Yeah, ever.
They've got that wedge working really well.
Yeah,
France as well.
Yeah.
Don't need to debate it. This is coming together very nicely. Tight head. Sinclair, busy for England. Taniela Tupou was superb for Australia. Uni Antonio, just as a man mountain, was obviously fired up for France. And Tyg Furlong was very industrious for Ireland as well. I'd love to know where you will go with this one.
I went with Tupou just because I think he's kind of changed the dynamics of how a prop should be.
Yeah.
I know Sinks is fantastic with those handling, but he combines absolute scrum depth, i.e. big old rig that goes forward, but with sublime skills, pace, power, and some of the, I think, I can't remember which game it was, but he did the naughtiest no-look offload the other day, and I just thought, wow, what a fantastic player.
Yeah. Antonio, I mean, you're not going backwards with Antonio.
No, you're definitely not going backwards, but I would say what I was thinking was they did change their full front row quite early. And obviously, Bamba came on, and
Bamba.
And they did just as good a role. So I thought it was quite harsh to
generous to give it to Antonio.
Generous to give it, and I agree with Hask in terms of when Tupou's on, he gets ball going forward. Australia have always needed someone who could do that but still could get the scrummage right when he needs to. And I love watching him play. He just carries angry. And I just love to see an athletic prop carry angry.
And also, if you think of like a good point about the Australian props, like Slipper and those guys, he's completely different to them. We've always had quite a monster front rows, but Australians never have had quite that kind of super dynamic player. They've had good scrummagers, but he's brilliant.
Also got an amazing nickname, which is the Tongan Thor.
Yeah.
And if you're bored at work and watching this, just Google Tongan Thor. I mean, that's how rugby should be played. The big kid is...
Don't misspell it and write Tongan Thong, because you get a very different thing.
Delete browser history. Tupou in. That's a juicy front row. Second rows, Etzebeth and Woki. And then Ryan Baird, Grant Gilchrist actually was really effective and industrious for Scotland. Johnny Hill with another effervescent performance for England. Are we leaving anyone out there?
No, I went for Eben and Woki.
Yeah.
I just thought the French prep was outstanding. Eben's I think he's been the leading light for second rows for this calendar year, and but that Woki was out. He was obviously he normally plays 6, right?
He played 6 the week before.
Yeah, and
he's better in the row. Question mark.
I don't know. First time I watched, he also played in the row at one point. He played again this autumn as well, and I didn't really felt it suit him. But whether it's just that game suited having that sort of 6 who could run around. But what France did really well is they attacked and actually New Zealand did it back to them. They attacked round the pick and goes but in midfield, not when you're at the line, just random pick and goes from halfway, and they made so much yardage from it. And then you had Dupont picking and going and stuff from halfway. And they did it. But then where New Zealand had their success in the second half was going back to a bit more of a set-piecey type game. Yep. They drove a lot, didn't they? And then they started picking, going around, and that's where they started making meters. But that intercept try really sort of took the sting out of that, and then they were. Then France's defence ended up winning it for them. But I thought Woki was... Is it Woki or Woki?
Cameron Woki.
Woki or... Yeah. Anyway, I thought he was...
Perfect player for 2021, Woki.
Yeah.
And
I thought Eben was a man mountain again.
He's had a hell of an autumn, hasn't he? Anyone else you'd throw in?
Well, I thought I had Gilchrist and Wookie. I like Ian, but I just thought I'd get Scott in there.
Yeah.
Because obviously, Hamish Watson was brilliant before. But
the only thing I would say about that is that I think an England-South Africa game had more at stake than a Scotland-Japan game.
Right. Well, let's go with that.
That is worthwhile your opinion quite like that.
Listen, I have no massive opinion about second rows.
But that is worthwhile pointing out that when we pick players of the week, we generally will favour the bigger status of the game.
Yes. And also and again, I'll just reiterate it, when you get really angry in the comment section, don't change anything. We don't care, but thanks for fighting your points.
But they do, and that's nice.
That's what I mean. It's not.
I like it that people
if you care, that's great for you.
But just do it nicely.
Okay, let's settle on Etzebeth and Woki. I don't think people are going to complain too much about that. 6, Laws.
Yeah.
Another titanic November. Jamie Ritchie, good for Scotland, but possibly suffering at what we've just been discussing. Jalanche. Was Jalanche 6 or 7?
I think Jalanche plays 7.
Yes, I think you're right.
It's a hard one because I think there were performances through the back row, and obviously we don't have we don't have to pick a back row that necessarily will play together, which is always a nice thing for us. Obviously, Doris played well. I thought the French back row
Doris was at 8, so he moved a late change into 8. Omani came. Omani had a good game as well,
which was just outstanding. But because we can pick a back row, we can pick any 3 that we want, really. So I had Doris.
Jalanche was 6. Francois Cross played 7.
He was great as well then.
And Aldrich.
I mean, all 3 of those were just outstanding. I have to have Aldrich in my back. He was incredible.
Right. Josh Bayliss went well for Scotland on debut, but stakes were higher for Aldrich.
Basham was again.
Basham at 7
was good for Wales.
So any debate about Aldrich at 8?
No.
Curry, Caelan Doris.
I mean, I had Caelan Doris at 8, but actually, I'm happy to go with that because they were so good.
Your opinions blow like leaves in the wind.
I'm channeling my inner Clive Woodward.
I like what you've done there.
L flip flop.
Okay, Aldrich at 8. I don't think we'd argue with that. And then So would you go Gelange at 6 over Laws and Ritchie?
I would, because Courtney was captain and just played brilliantly. And
Yeah, no, I actually the best two out of that back row for me in the French team was 7 and 8. So
Okay,
I prefer Croat at 7, and
okay.
you can do what you want with 6.
I don't
Courtney.
do what I want. We're going to settle on Courtney Laws, England captain.
and he will captain this team, I think.
Do you think?
Yeah, I would.
So are you therefore picking Francois Crowe over Tame Basham? Or Van der
Yes.
Fleer, actually, although it's a hammering for Ireland. You suffer when you're putting 50 on an opposition.
Should we look at some stats to get it through?
All right. Laws 6.
What
Francois
comes
Crowe,
first?
open side.
What's most important for a 7? Tackles made on meters gained or carries? Or
I'd say
is it a
tackles made
combination
first.
of both?
Tackles made first.
Tackles. Basham made 15.
I'm going Francois Crowe, and you can come back and justify why.
Crowe only made 11 tackles.
Right.
Actually, Basham did beat him on the meters as well and the carries. So I think
Tame Basham.
I think we've
I
summed
had
it
him
up
at 7.
Isn't that interesting, though, how you watch that All Black game and Crowe is just sensational, and then you actually look at the workload.
But again, that's why
Stats
stats don't tell you
you
everything.
But
You know,
then
like,
you look,
I know
you look
that.
at
how many of those were impact tackles? How many of them, you know, what else was he doing? How quickly did he get off the floor? How quickly did he get back in line? Was he not? Like, it's just
Okay.
the nuances are endless.
We're sort of stuck on this roundabout. The
no,
indicators
I've gone Courtney, Basham, and
Aldrit.
Aldrit.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. No arguments. Dupont, any other takers?
No.
Okay. I think he's been unanimous every week.
He's going to be
Someone
World
tell
Player
me.
of the Year.
Yeah,
Rugby.
without a shadow of a doubt.
Did you
he's
see the
World Player.
picture of him and Aaron Smith?
Yes.
Swapping shirt.
Yes.
Cannonball shoulders.
Yes.
Which I
So much
wouldn't know a lot
bigger and
about.
more physical
Yeah.
than Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith's fantastic. He's a mate. I think he's utterly amazing.
Yeah.
But
I'm-
Dupont's just so
It was the-
nuggety.
I think there's a DNA case to go into because I don't know what he's made of, but I don't think it's human. All
No.
of it.
Yeah.
Imagine you bred Aaron Smith and Dupont together.
Yeah. Have you ever seen?
Not in a weird way. No, I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch that happen. I just want to see it blend it and you know.
Have you ever seen a 9 that's support line? He's always there
Yeah.
as well. Literally always there.
I tell you who actually writes it was an informed Chris Ashton back
Yeah.
in the day, who was always ahead of the line,
Yeah.
hanging,
Yeah.
and would always get those poachers tries.
Yeah.
Remember, we used to watch him like, where the hell's he
Where's
come
he
from?
come from?
And he'd be like, meh, and
And
he'd
then
be running on the
you
wing.
go on the wide thing. He's on the completely opposite wing, in front of the line,
Yeah.
starting to run into the centre of the field. And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
actually, what you?
Actually, well done.
But it's like I love at Dupont because every player has a weakness. You know, everyone has a thing they're not that great at, and you think you've got some fantastic 10s who are absolute fannies when it comes to tackling, and that was their weakness. He doesn't appear to have a weakness. Because when he runs into contact, he bumps people off. People try and wrestle him for the ball, and he just
When it was
carries
the
on.
bit he got hit in centre field.
Yeah, when he picked the ball
When
up,
he
when
picked
they
the
made a
ball up.
break and he knew he had
And
to
he
get the
went
ball
back
up, and he got
10
hit by
metres.
3 guys,
Yeah.
and they couldn't get him on
Yeah.
the floor.
That's
I'm
right.
like, this is a guy who's looks like he's 5'6".
That
Reminds
was
me
the
of
bit
Pete-
where you thought the guy is made of titanium.
It reminds me of like Pete Richards, who's the only scrum half I ever know had a cauliflower ear. He's played for Wasp because he's just to take people's heads off.
36 metres made, 8 defenders beaten, 7 carries, 38 passes, 1 offload, 7 tackles, and a turnover.
A partridge in a pear tree. Dupont in 10. Untermac, Smith or Russell?
I think
I tell you what,
I think Edgeback gets it for the goal, the bit
Goal
of
line.
wizardry in the goal.
yeah, there is a remarkable head-to-head that's going to brew between Untermac
Yeah.
and Smith over the
Yeah.
next 10 years,
Yeah.
and that is just in the hair stakes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Vidal Sassoon and Babelis are going to be like writing checks for those two.
You know, I'm a massive fan of Marcus Smith, but I think it's one. I'm not a massive fan of his lid. I think it could be professional jealousy, so I'm not in the hair department. But Untermac is just. I mean, I don't normally pick players on whether I find them sexy or not, but he is just an absolute dreamboat of a bloke.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets in on model. If we were going to market this team, he'd be front and centre.
Yeah.
We're doing merchandise
Very
for
good
days.
10. Tries to avoid tackles. 95 metres made, 4 defenders beaten, 4 clean breaks, 7 carries, only 8 passes, 1 offload, 2 tackles, no turnovers.
Still look good when he came
Let's
off.
see how good he looks after a few years of playing.
Yeah.
When someone's finally got hold of
Yeah.
him.
Well done, Marcus Smith. Heck of a day for you. And Russ obviously pulled the strings for Scotland, but I think, Untermac just on that performance alone is worthy of the 10 shirt. Wingers, Mapimpi, Payno, Marchant.
I had my pimpy.
You went Mapimpi.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at Smith, he only had 3 metres. According to
Those are
this.
probably the last 3 meters of the game.
Yeah. He made 5 tackles though. But yeah, in terms of clean line breaks, it was a tougher day at the office for Marcus Smith. Winger, I thought Villiers
Gabin Villiers.
was out. I mean, this is what France have got.
I tell you what, Max Malins actually deserves a shout as well.
Yeah, I've written Max down as well. People are really giving that was a definite penalty for him making like that double tackle. I was like, why don't you just praise the effort?
Yeah.
He's tackled one guy and almost tackled the other guy whilst tackling the first guy and knocked the ball out of his hands.
Yeah.
So I had Villiers, Mapimpi in there. Was Pino's 14, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think Mapimpi got in last week, so I think I'd probably go Villiers.
You're going Payno and Villiers, or Marchant, or Max Malins?
I put Kellaway in there as well in terms of
fair play.
he played well. But I actually think, because even though Marchant moved to the centre, I thought, considering I was not expecting him to be in the starting 15 at all, and then he looked very, very comfortable in what he was doing, I could maybe get him to oust Payno and have Villiers and Marchant. I even almost went Marchand. He's a hooker.
Marchand. Villiers and Marchand.
Yeah.
Well done, Joe. I mean, a huge shout out to Malins.
Yeah. But I expected him to start and have 2 fullbacks in that back 3.
But I think the reason he picked Marchand is he's so good in the air.
Yeah, but I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
Centres.
And also, sorry, because I was in camp on the Thursday, watching them train.
Yeah.
Smith and Marchant and Manu worked really well together in training. They were cutting the guys apart a lot. Yeah, linking really well. And actually, Marchant made a couple of big breaks in training. Marcus Smith absolutely cut the opposition apart. So they've got a good thing going. And Manu was on the receiving end, a lot of them.
Yeah.
Really?
They seem to work quite well together, actually. Really good.
Shout out to Manu. Hope he's not too bad.
Get well soon.
I haven't really seen anything about what he might have done. I think it was more precautionary now. They just get him off, don't they, now, rather than risk anything.
Oh, mistakes. Slade obviously wore 13, but moved into 12 when Manu went off. So Slade and Fiku convinced me otherwise. But I'll throw the names. Dialende, Dante, Rico Ioane or Chris Harris.
I did think...
Was that Slade's best game for England? Dublin 20...
Yeah, yes. I don't know, actually. I think Marchant played better. But then Slade was pulling the strings behind a little bit more, wasn't he? But in terms of notes that I wrote down, Slade didn't get as many mentions as the other ones. I thought Ione was fantastic in a losing team for the All Blacks. I mean, his gas is just
extraordinary.
Never give it the old where you've got yourself in the position as a defensive back and you're running away from him and he's on your inside shoulder because he's going to take that gap and people aren't going to catch him on the inside.
Yeah.
So you can't do that.
I think it was Wokey who was going head down, piston arms, trying to get into the space.
Never do that. Just step in, make them beat you on the outside.
He's so aggressive when he steps and how quickly he gets through it. You see he goes power, and then and it's like the anger. It's like him, like the way Arnie Severe runs as well.
So yeah, I sort of had Ione at 13 and then
Dante was massive for France.
It was between Dante and Dialende.
I had Dante. I used to play with him at Stadmore saying
what about Fiku though? He was freaking brilliant.
But this is what I was trying to say. What France have got at the moment is people pick up the slack.
Yeah.
So you get Villiers coming off and picking and going at 9, or he'll run, or he'll just always hang on the inside of Ntamack and create space for Ntamack. Same with Payno, he turns up everywhere. And then Fiku will end up on the wing, and they just swap roles around really well. They fill each other's spaces if one's off doing some work. And again, when they just needed someone to go straight, and Dante was already in the mix somewhere else, then Fiku stepped up and did exactly the same. And he's just got that little bit of more of agility. There's a bit more guile to it than what Dante does, but equally he's a power runner, a power carrier. I went Dante and Ione.
I came with Slade and Fiku, and I left with Dante and Ioane.
No, but
I think you know far more than I do. I'm definitely not contributing.
I just don't think I think in that scenario there
was that not Henry Slade's best game for England?
I thought it was very good.
I thought he was better last week, but I suppose the opposition wasn't the same. But
Christ alive. I thought distribution.
I'm going to go back and watch.
Okay.
He'll do more than pass, though, mate.
Yeah, I know, but he unlocked the tightest defence in world rugby.
Well, as well. He did
And
it
really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He put the Manu ball on the plate.
And
he
that
put
no-look
Malins
pass to
away, which then
Marchin.
led to
Yeah.
Freddie Stewart's try. And he put it, and the no-look pass
Yeah.
for March, and he went up and
Yeah.
put Rafi Quirk in the middle.
I just think he
But-
looks confident as well. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I
Like
thought he
sometimes
looked-
Slade, he hasn't always been the most settled selection in there. I think.
Yeah, I
it's,
suppose the ones that I've picked were more actually line breaks and bits more than just the passing. I think Marchant played a massive role in terms of how he drifted on the ball, then straightened. So he left that 13 drifting. I know obviously the pass has still got to be on the money. But I'm just
know
going
more
on
than
as I go
I.
through a game. I have everyone's name and I put a mark next to whenever there's something nice.
Right.
And they had more marks.
Okay, that's very fair. Sorry, Henry. Fought for you.
Sorry, but Henry, you played exceptionally well, and we still love you.
He just sort that haircut out because he's such a good
Yes,
looking bloke. It's
points
awful.
down on haircut.
Yeah.
Although Ioani's hair is
Awful as well.
Yeah.
What is it? I mean,
It's
again, I
fallen into a
know I
sheep
can't
shirt.
people in glass houses and stuff, but what is it about scoop out the back? That's
Oh,
weird, isn't
yeah.
it? Just like a crash helmet.
But it seems like they've got 5 for the price of
yeah.
in the New Zealand team. All of them
Clippers
come on
ran
with
out
it
of
fully
batteries.
shaved down the side, don't they?
know.
The 2 centres came on with exactly the same
I know.
lid.
Props did it. They started it.
15. Stewart,
Yeah.
Liam Williams, or Melvin Jaminet.
Stewart. He's just been.
Jaminet.
He just keeps saying it, but I just
Yeah.
think
Yeah, but
he's.
Jaminet.
Yeah, but Stewart has come on, and I know he's been playing fantastic for Leicester, and they're unbeaten. He's confident, and he hasn't had to play any of his opposition before, but he looks like the real deal.
He does.
Plays with real confidence. He's flipping huge at 6'5". He's lovely, and to score that try, right? Again, we talk about players having different qualities. In that game last week, there was always been a question mark about whether he had that ability to finish because he's so big, but he beautifully stepped. I mean, albeit Marcus Smith's very clever delaying, so he took 2 players in and opened the hole, but he finished it wonderfully, looked amazing, and then to power over through 3 South Africans when you're that tall and to get that low and actually go with it was pretty mega.
Yeah, there's a plethora of 15s that we could have picked today. I'm just going to throw a little shout out for Curtly Beale, who still, when he gets it right,
King
he made
Cosmos.
line breaks galore. He's got feet to die for, but obviously a yellow card goes against him.
Yeah.
People don't know when you know that they're going to make the pass and you want to hit the ball and not give away a penalty and a yellow card. Don't look at the ball. There was one last week where the guy actually didn't even look at the ball, looked at the man all along, made the tackle, which I don't think should have been a yellow card.
Yep.
Whereas unfortunately the eyes gave it away. The eyes gave it away when you carried on tackling and you were still looking at the ball. And then he made the tackle to make sure he's like, no, I was tackling him. But why is your head looking the other direction? So
Class in a glass when he gets going, though.
as good as Stewart was,
The steward.
Stewart, sorry.
Stewart was great as well.
Stewart. As long as good as he was, I did put Jaminet.
Can you two have a quick thumb war to determine whether it's
Yeah.
Stewart or...
Or do you want a stat war?
Stat war.
Well, I mean, that's not a fair fight.
Why not?
What, have you got any stats? Hask checking WhatsApp.
No, I've got stats.
I got some stats.
I got
34D.
I got stats on. So Stewart, 58 metres, 1 defender beaten, 9 carries, 4 passes,
1 try.
0 tackles. Well done, the fullback.
He
Well done,
also,
the defensive line
the
in front of
composure
him.
he showed at the end to take the kick off, get clattered in the air.
Yeah, which was more of a yellow card than
Khaleesi's.
and Khaleesi's. Problem is, loads of people are moaning about Khaleesi's. And it's not
Letter
just
of the
whether
law.
you're looking at the ball and going for the ball anymore.
It's whether you can rightfully
It's whether
win
you
the
can
ball.
rightfully contest.
Yes.
And then if you can't contest, can you control
Yes.
what's happening to the other guys? And that is why he got the yellow card. Now, people would think it harsh. I would have thought it harsh in my if I was playing, but that is why the yellow card came. And don't forget, if he hadn't have done the penalty and the yellow card would have scored underneath the post. So
Stats you've done. Jaminet.
So Jaminet, 118 metres, 4 defenders beaten, 1 clean break, 7 carries, 3 passes, and 1 tackle.
Okay.
Jaminet wins it on stats.
Well, he didn't get the try. And it's about big plays, not just stats.
Well, no, it's
Okay. Well,
All
I'll go with that.
right. Fine. Jaminet.
Sorry, Freddie.
Jaminet. Sorry, Freddie. I
Spoiled
tried to
his
fight.
weekend.
Yeah.
yeah.
Tin's absolutely hating the English players now.
More that I'm absolutely
Can I- oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's fair play. Actually, do you know, it's interesting because you do a lot of don't like that, but we are slowly turning you into Nice Mike. I'm a very good
always
influence on
nice,
both.
Mike. It's very specific people I
Not in
turn my
Ireland, you're
hate.
not.
Huh?
Not in Ireland, you're
Or
not.
South
Well,
Africa.
no,
Or South Africa.
I've turned that around
Yeah,
now in
slowly,
terms of they are
slowly.
playing fantastically, way better rugby. Offloads, managed to flip it around to an average of 7 offloads a game. Well done, Ireland. It's beautiful to watch. I'm happy to see that you're all enjoying yourself, playing with smiles on faces and scoring 50 points. This is how I would like to see you play, and I will buy tickets to watch you play that rugby.
And how good does Andy Farrell look with a shaved head and a beard?
I know.
Sexy.
I got to be.
Taught him everything I knew.
While we're on that, can we just give a shout out for Fabien Gaultier's goggles as well?
He loves him, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He
it's
does.
mega.
Looks like an artiste.
Andrew Porter, Pertu Malvaka, Taniela Tupou, Etzebet and Woki in the second row, Laws, Tane Basham, and Aldrich in the back row. That's a proper back row. Dupont, Ntamak, Villiers, Danty, Ioane, Marchand, well done, Joe, and Jaminet. At 50, that's a very French heavy 15.
Yeah, it's very French.
Got to give it to them.
But
I liked
I'd
Eddie's
love
line
to see where people, please comment. Please tag me in. Not really. But
Don't tag me in.
But yeah, I think it is a tough week this week because I think that win for France is massive.
Yeah.
And even though, the other game, the England South Africa game was good, it was a game of 2 halves. So, and then, ultimately, as entertaining as the Wales Australia game was, the
More
red card
substance in
early
Paris.
on killed the game and the yellow cards in between.
Alrighty. Well done. Just a bit of fun. Hope you enjoyed it. That's our team of the week. Thank you to our friends at Amazon Prime Video for making this happen. What a month of international rugby it has been. Our normal show will be out at the normal time on Wednesday. We've got something a little bit different for you this week as well. We've improvised and broken out of the studio. So tune into that if you'd like to have a listen. We've been The Good, the Bad and the Rugby. See you very soon. Bye-bye.